Hello everyone, this is Commissioner Dick Schutz of the Central Minnesota's Finest League on Yahoo. Now you may not be able to see me right now, but you can hear me. And that is the premise of this. I want to end up uploading voice messages and voice recordings onto our group page to review the weekly matchups on our fantasy league and preview the upcoming matchups in our fantasy football league. So again, this will be a season-long thing. I'm hoping to post all these voice recordings on Tuesday or Wednesday. It all depends on my availability, but they should be uploaded by no later than Wednesday nights. In the meantime, all this will be on YouTube. I will upload these voice recordings on there and then eventually copy and paste the link to our Facebook page. So it's pretty easy for you guys to just click the link on our group page on Facebook and go ahead and listen to these recordings if you wish. And ultimately, I hope you end up doing so. I think you'll enjoy that. And this will be a lot easier for me to voice record myself rather than type up huge paragraphs worth of sentences and so on. That's a lot of work, a lot more work. So without further ado, let's go ahead and review week number 1 in our fantasy football league. We had 4 amazing matchups, and the key matchup, without a doubt, was the championship rematch between Steph and Ryan, I should say. For the first time ever, Steph got the better of Ryan, winning 177 to 149. Ryan was projected to get 201, and Steph was projected to get 179. So for Steph, she was right where Yahoo projected her to be. For Ryan, of course, his team was well below their projected 201. When you look at Ryan's team, you can just see there's way too many players in his starting lineup that had single digits, especially from big positions such as the running back position and the wide receiver position. Ryan also failed to start Kareem Hunt, who off the bench had 46 points. If Ryan would have started Kareem Hunt and would have had Le'Veon Bell on the bench or Christian McCaffrey on the bench, Ryan would have won this matchup, but of course, going into it, he loved his matchups. He loved what he had in the starting lineup. They just did not perform. For Steph, she had a really good showing from her 2 quarterbacks in Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz. She also got 23 points from her first overall pick in Leonard Fournette. So again, for Steph, this is a huge win for her. She has never beaten Ryan up to this point, played him multiple times in the last 3 years. So for Steph, this is a big win for her. For Ryan, it's a minor setback. It's just 1 week into the season, so there's no reason to, push the panic button if you're Ryan. And for Steph, you know that this win kind of catapults you into first place in the Purple Division, and certainly something she should be proud of moving forward. Now in the second matchup, I'm just going to go right down the lineup here. We had Kyle and Dusty. Kyle beat Dusty 205 to 156. So Kyle moves to 1-0 on the season, and Dusty falls to 0-1. Now Kyle was projected to get 193 points, so he went above that. And for Dusty, he was projected 197, so he was well below that, much like Ryan's team. Just kind of casually looking at each starting lineup here in week 1. What I noticed is Kyle had really good performances from Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy, along with Golden Tate. Also, the big kicker for Kyle is he had the Los Angeles Rams defense, who had 34 points, and he had Luke Kuechly, who had 33 points for him. That certainly helped Kyle get the win and eclipse 200 points on the season. For Dusty, he he had Matthew Stafford go out and put up 30 points to start the season. And everybody else other than Stafford really was not very good at all. Melvin Gordon with 18, but other than that, it was low teens or, even in single digits. So for Dusty, not what he was looking for to start the season, but again, it's really early. There's no reason to panic whether you won or lost. So the big thing is that there's plenty of more matchups to come. It's early on in the season. So let's go ahead to matchup number 3. And matchup number 3 out of 4, we had the third place rematch from a year ago between Mike's team and Turtle's team. Turtle took over for Mick, who he was co-managing with last year. So Turtle's got the reins all by himself this year, and he starts the season off with a bang. He beats Mike in one of the closest matchups we had in week 1, 202 to 194. Turtle was projected to get 193, while Mike was projected to get 184. So both teams are right about where Yahoo projected them. Mike was above that, and so was Turtle. So they both went above their projections. When I look at Turtle's starting lineup, I see a lot of 20s. I see Mariota with 20, Aaron Rodgers with 22, Todd Gurley with 20, Stephon Diggs with a huge Monday night performance with 28. So he really, up and down his lineup, had a lot of consistency with top-heavy points. And when you look at Mike, he had close to the same with Turtle. 21 from Derek Carr, 29 from Thielen, 22 from Gillislee on Thursday night with 3 touchdowns for New England, and he had 30 points from the Baltimore defense, who shut out Cincinnati 20-0. So when I look at this matchup between Turtle and Mike, I see two teams that really did perform very well in the first week of the season. Unfortunately, one team had to lose, and that was Mike. So after the first week, Turtle goes to 1-0, and Mike falls to 0-1. But again, looking at this matchup and how it unfolded, I think both teams should be happy with how their players performed. Unfortunately for Mike, in this matchup, he suffered an injury from one of his big wide receivers. Allen Robinson is now out for the season with a torn ACL. So Mike's going to have to probably revamp his wide receivers moving forward. And in the fourth and final matchup of week 1, we had Jared versus Troy. Troy failed to make the playoffs again last season, while Jared had a pretty solid season. And after week 1, Troy gets the W. He wins 162 to 123 over Jared. Troy projected to get 170, and Jared projected to get 189. So Troy was a little bit below his projected total, and Jared was well below his projected total, which seems to be a trend. A lot of teams in this league were under their projected line. I think that has a lot to do with the offenses not playing so well overall in the NFL. The first thing that jumps out to me, without going through who did well for Troy and who did well for Jared, is the fact that David Johnson, the consensus #1 overall pick in a lot of leagues who don't involve keepers, ended up dislocating his shoulder midway through against the Lions, and now is projected to have surgery on his shoulder, which means he is going to be out 2 to 3 months. They're saying he won't be back until around Thanksgiving, so that pretty much eliminates David Johnson for the remainder of this year's fantasy football season. And what that does is kind of catastrophic. David Johnson had 412 fantasy points last year and was projected to be about 400 again this season. So if you're Jared, not only do you lose a huge piece, but you also lose well over 300 fantasy points because this happened in week number 1. So if you're Jared, how are you going to piece together well over 300 points? It's going to be almost impossible to do. Hopefully he can stay afloat, but it is going to be a very tall uphill climb. So sorry to hear that, Jared. Not gonna lie. Now back to the performances. Sam Bradford had a really strong performance for Troy. He had 31. Tyreek Hill had 28 on Thursday night in New England, and then he had 20 points from Phillip Rivers, 18 from Hopkins, 16 from Coleman. So Troy had a pretty good week. For Jared, he had a lot of teens. His high guy was Keenan Allen with 15. So when you look at Jared, not only did he not score very much from his big name players this week, but also he lost his number 1 overall player, David Johnson. So again, after week 1, Troy goes to 1-0, Jared goes to 0-1. Big win for Troy. First time he's been over 500 as far as records go in a long time here in Central Minnesota's finest league. So let's go back to the standings here as the laptop is loading here. After week 1, this is how the standings look. In the purple division, we have 1-0 and 3 0-1s. Steph is 1-0 after beating Ryan. Mike is in second place in the purple division. He's 0-1. Dusty is in third place. He is 0-1. And Ryan is in fourth place in the purple division after 1 week. He is also 0-1. In the gold division, right now as it stands, Yahoo has Troy in second place, but I don't go by that. I go by points forced. So if this is how I would do it, Kyle would be in first place. He is 1-0 with 205 points. And then Turtle would be in second place in the gold division with 202 points forced. And in third place, it would be Troy with 162 points forced. And finally, Jared would be in fourth place in the gold division. He is 0-1. He is the only 0-1 team in the gold division. All 3 other teams are 1-0. Now, as we move into week number 2, we have a lot of big matchups. If I remember right, I made this an all-divisional week, and as I look through it, that's exactly what it is. So we have huge matchups. Ryan is playing Dusty. Both teams are 0-1. Neither team can afford to go 0-2, although it is still early yet. Troy plays Kyle. Both teams are 1-0. So the winner of that matchup is likely going to be in first place in the gold division, or at least tied for it. And then you got Mike and Steph, a big matchup for both teams. Steph, if she wins, she's for surely still in first place moving into week number 3. And then the final matchup is Jared versus Turtle. Again, Jared's going to have to make up those points from David Johnson. And Turtle, with a strong performance in week 1, he comes out and he takes advantage of a team that's dealing with injuries. Perhaps he can set himself forward and be at the top of the gold division after week 2 as well. So, again, a big season ahead of us. I hope you all are able to listen to this, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. In the meantime, this is Commissioner Dick Schutz, and you'll hear me again next Tuesday or Wednesday. Good luck in week number 2 to all of you, and have fun.